Legacies weren't built overnight, and neither were we. To be in the Conference of Champions, you need to have the heart of a champion. That means showing up every single time you step on the court, and then doing it over and over again. Because practice makes perfect. And when that hard work meets opportunity, magic happens. We know the big moments come once in a lifetime, so when you see us wearing the Pac-12 shield, it means that we came to play. We're playing for the record setters who came before us, the bar raisers, the ankle breakers, the powerhouses, for the student athletes who've defined what it means to be part of the greatest conference in the nation. We're playing for the former teammates who got us to where we are, and for the little girls watching us at home, wondering what it really means to play like a girl. So know that when you watch Pac-12 women's basketball this season, this is more than just a game to us. In the last 12 years, we've seen 10 Final Four appearances. But this year, no more games. We've got the best coaches and players in the country, and we've never been more ready. From the preseason hustle, to the Pac-12 tournament, to the big dance. This year, it's more than just a game, and we'll prove it to you on the court. Pac-12 women's basketball. Stay tuned for the journey.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm Anne-Marie Anderson, Pac-12 Commissioner Larry Scott joining us. Little Q&A. We'll have you guys join in a few moments to ask some questions. But Larry, I wanted to ask the first one. As we approach tip, conceivably there's 4 teams in this conference who could be ranked in the top 10 preseason. To what do you ascribe that kind of growth?
Well, the trajectory of this conference has been a lot of fun to witness in women's basketball in 10 years I've been here, and I think this is the strongest we've certainly been in our modern history. As you say, certainly at the top. We're going to have teams that are expected to be competing for Final Fours this year, but the depth of the conference has been tremendous to see as well. I mean, I think of Arizona coming through and winning the WNIT at the end of last season, and I see the legacy of coaches now that we've had one coaching change, and with Sharman Smith joining at Cal, she's about as inexperienced as a newcomer, as you can imagine. I played at Stanford and coached at Stanford and Cal, so I really feel like the conference has developed nicely over time, and I really ascribe it to the commitment of our schools. First and foremost, they prioritize women's sports and women's basketball in particular in our league, have made some great coaching hires. Our schools have a tradition of excellence. I think, as the video said, 10 of the last 12 years. We've had teams in the Final Four. The last few years, we've had at least half the league make the NCAA tournament. So there's a nice momentum that's built. And I do think that the exposure that women's basketball has gotten our league, the collective commitment of our schools and the league in putting 125 games this year, for example, on the Pac-12 networks, in addition to ESPN's commitment. I mean, there's no other conference that provides that exposure for women's basketball, women's sports generally. So I think there's a bunch of different factors, but this is certainly a golden age for women's basketball in the Pac-12.
We're all here to learn about the conference and the teams this year. There's a lot of exciting things, including Stanford's freshman class. What storylines are you following? I mean, are you a believer? Second-ranked team, Fran Belibi, really exciting. What interests you as you look across the landscape?
Yeah, definitely count me as a believer. Okay. I'm on that bandwagon. What's going to be really fun to watch is we've got very elite teams. And we've made Final Fours, as I mentioned, 10 of the last 12 years. What I'm looking for this year is to see if we have a team that's going to make that next step, which is holding the trophy up at the end of the NCAA tournament. I'm also going to be watching to see, with the increased depth that we have, can we go beyond 6 teams, 7 teams in the NCAA tournament? A lot of that will come down to how we do non-conference. So what's really fun for me is just to see the development top to bottom. There's a lot of enthusiasm, high expectations, really, amongst all of our schools. And I don't think there's another conference in the country that's going to have the kind of depth we have and have teams capable of competing for the national championship.
There's stars in this league, genuine stars. There have been, going back to the Ogwumike sisters and Kelsey Plum, and certainly some big stars now. Sabrina Ionescu, projected #1 pick potentially in the WNBA. What can the Pac-12 do to kind of leverage that star power to support and elevate the entire league?
Yeah. Well, as you point out, I think momentum's a powerful thing, and it's showing up in recruiting. I don't know that we've had stronger recruiting classes than we've witnessed in the last year or two as well, and that's really fun to see as well. So I think these things build upon each other. Momentum's a very powerful thing, and I sense that in the league at the moment. And got no reason why I see that not continuing.
Along the same lines, the coaches in this conference have really delivered consistently. There's some stars there. Oregon State has sustained excellence through many classes. Tara Vanderveer, a coaching star, 31 wins away from all-time coaching leader. In terms of the strength of the coaches in the league, what impresses you the most?
Well, I had a chance to meet with our coaches this morning, as well as a student athlete, something I like to do on this day. And I look around that table, and I see some iconic coaches and legends. Look at Tara, look at Corey Close as examples. And I also notice a lot of former Pac-12 student athletes, former players themselves. So we got a really cool group of a lot of great experience, but also some of the most exciting, most talented, young up-and-coming coaches that have deep roots in the league. So look, that's obviously an essential ingredient. But we are also now getting a lot of star talent coming to the league as well, as you mentioned. Obviously, the returning National Player of the Year. Well, it was at another school. Destiny Slocum was the Freshman of the Year. So we've got a lot of standout. We've got, as you mentioned, #2 recruiting class in the country in the league. So I think that's kind of an X factor that is now we're adding on top of the strong base and momentum that's built. Now some of the best talent in the country is coming here. And look, a lot of these student athletes that come to Pac-12 schools to play women's basketball have their sights set on the WNBA. And you look at some of the stars that have gone from our league to be well drafted and have great success in the WNBA. And I think that's the kind of thing, with young people that reinforces Pac-12 is a great pathway to the WNBA and to fulfill your athletic dreams. And of course, it's got some of the best academic schools in the country, too. So I think that's what student athletes recognize as the opportunity at the Pac-12.
Last year, first year for the tournament to be in Vegas. What kind of feedback did you get?
It was great feedback. I think our women's basketball community didn't know exactly what to expect, but had seen the success that we've had with men's basketball there, and we're kind of game. And I think everyone left really, really pleased with how the teams were treated, the environment, the crowd reaction that we had, sort of the overall vibe. This year, we are moving to the Mandalay Bay, which is where the Aces play, and working with MGM that owns that team. We think it'll take the event to another level in terms of, really an embedded fan base that follows and appreciates and is educated on women's basketball. And we've certainly seen that fans have enjoyed making the trip and being there. I think we're so pleased with how it went and the feedback that we got from our schools that we thought ahead and actually have some news I'll announce this morning. We've finalized arrangements to extend another couple of years our men's basketball and women's basketball tournaments in Las Vegas. So 2020, March 2020 was going to be the last year of our current arrangements, and we're going to be playing the men's and women's basketball tournament in Las Vegas in 21 and 22 as well. And I think we're joined by some of our friends back here. Okay, we've got Pat Christensen from Las Vegas Events here with us today, and George Kliavkov from MGM, our partners here. Delighted to have you all here. And anyone that's interested in hearing a little bit more about our plans in Las Vegas and our partnership, feel free to talk to Pat and George. But we're really excited about this. I mean, having a platform of a fabulous end of season tournament, well supported with a lot of enthusiasm and buzz amongst fans, twinned with great media exposure. We're in a good place in terms of the foundations for our women's basketball program.
George Kleokloff, my other boss, will tell you that the Mandalay Bay Event Center is called The House, so it's good to know that Pac-12 basketball has a home in Vegas for the next couple of years. We can open up to some questions from the media now. I think you'll raise your hand to receive a microphone when you're ready.
Morning, Larry. Janie
Hi there.
McCauley from AP. This is our first opportunity to talk to you since Governor Newsom signed the Fair Pay to Play Act at the mouthful. Sorry. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, you have some of your conference teams in California and some aren't. And what's the reaction you've gotten from coaches and just around the conference so far regarding this?
Yeah, well, it's early days, as you say, but we've been very active in communication with our campuses at different levels, including this morning. Had a chance to talk to our coaches about it. And I think it's going to take some time for it to digest and people to kind of think through the implications. And there are strong feelings all over the place on this issue, as we've witnessed in the media and just talking to people. I think what we've wanted to point out, we have some real concerns about the bill, some of which I referred to in the statement last week. But even since the statement we put out, I think there are at least 10, maybe 12 states that since then have had senators or other representatives raise their hand and say, we plan on a similar bill, and in some cases maybe with our own tweaks to it. And I think I can say, as a conference, we've got real concerns about a state-by-state approach to managing college sports. I mean, schools recruit nationally, compete for national championships. There have to be common rules that apply. So, don't think state-by-state legislators deciding how college sports should run is the way to go. And we're going to be very active in trying to seek a national response and solution, whether it's through the NCAA or otherwise. I think the other concern we've got, while I'm sure the legislators and Governor Newsom are very well-intended, those of us that work in college sports understand a lot of flaws with this bill and the way it's written. I've seen plenty of people comment on this because people that understand college sports would immediately understand, there's recruiting in college sports, and there's very aggressive recruiting and a lot of competition for student athletes. And I think the concern is that while it may be well-intentioned to try to provide name, image, and likeness opportunities for that very, very small handful, maybe 0.5%, 1% of our student athletes, go on to have successful professional careers and maybe have a name, image, and likeness value. It's pretty clear that there's a market for recruiting and student athletes. So the idea that agents would be involved helping negotiate deals for student athletes, our concern is that winds up being payment for recruiting and trying to get student athletes to go to a certain school. And wouldn't be, the way the bill is written, it wouldn't be very hard to dress it up as NIL. I don't think that's what's intended. So when I talk about unintended consequences, I mean, that's probably the most obvious, easy to understand example for people if it becomes a market for recruiting. And if that's what happens, which, we expect it would, that it wouldn't be limited, and there's no way to really put guardrails to make sure it would be for arm's length NIL payment. If that happens, there's no doubt, money that supports athletics departments would go to student athletes to try to recruit them. And that's resources that would be drained from our athletics departments. And I signaled a concern that we've got for women's sports and Olympic sports that are the beneficiaries of athletics departments having resources. We've got, most of our schools have 18 or 19 sports or more, some as high as, high 20s and 30s. And if money gets drained, money that's supporting the athletics department currently starts going direct to student athletes to get them go to school X or Y, Our concern is to be less resources, and sports might get cut as part of that. Having said that, we've been at the forefront of supporting student-athlete reform and welfare. We've been proponents for full cost of attendance, nutrition, healthcare coverage, liberalizing transfer rules, and we'll be very actively engaged in this discussion with our campuses and nationally to try to work on a national solution and something that's, much more artfully written or done that doesn't have all these unintended consequences. And the other thing I should point out, completely supportive of young people having the opportunity to professional opportunities. So we've been supporting, the NBA and other leagues allowing student athletes to go pro earlier, not have to go to college. We are for choice. And if young people want to earn money from their name, image, and likeness or get paid to play, they should have that opportunity. That's called pro sports. College sports is different. You go to get an education. It's amateur. They're students. Those are the defining characteristics, and we'd like to see those lines not get blurred and the interest in college sports become diminished.
Any other questions for Larry? All right, Larry, thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Have a great day.
We'll enjoy the coaches.